welcome back to our podcast, Three Voices, One School System. Today's episode name is called Behind the Laughs.
So today is a podcast with me, Angelina, Maria, and Jessica. So we're just gonna start off by saying a bit of a background of where we went to, so you guys have a context. So I went to a high school in Montreal. It was a private high school actually, and it was predominantly white people, and I was really in the minorities in the group.
And I went to a public high school in Montreal, but it was extremely diverse, mostly Filipinos.
And for me, it's pretty similar than Angelina. It's just I went to a public one, but predominant white people, and I was one of the only ethnicity from a different ethnicity background of my level.
Yeah, so I feel like to start off before we start talking too much, I'm just gonna give out like two definitions of racism and microaggression, just so you guys get a context. And I feel like people don't really know like the real definition. Okay,
Mhm.
so the definition of racism of by Merriam-Webster is that it's a belief that race is a fundamental determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produces an inherent superiority of a particular race. So it's something created. Racism is created. And then microaggression too is linked to racism. It's a subcategory, if you could say that. And it's a comment or action that subtly and often unconsciously or unintentionally expresses a prejudice attitude toward a member of a marginalized group, such as racial minorities.
And I think something I could add is that how we like personally in my high school we don't see us like we've never talked about the topic of racism nor microaggression nor honestly any of branches of it. In high school I started actually learn from in a schooling environment in Cégep rather than in high school. Like we've talked about it with Angelina, like we only had like um posters of like do not smoke or like no vaping stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, my posters were more like don't bully, say no to intimidation, like just that. Not a lot about racism.
Yeah, and so that's why we are here to talk about it because it is a problem. It's just that it's not seen as a problem for our school system for some reason.
Yeah, and to go back to the definition of microaggression, we did prepare some example that we've either encountered or other people have seen it. For example, one that I think we've all seen, even Jess, if she didn't go to necessarily a predominant white high school, that question is, where are you really from? Which sounds kind of degrading because we're all born here, we're all from Montreal, we're all Quebecois, we're all Canadians, and the like really where are you really from is like what do you mean? Like
Mhm.
they don't associate our faces to Canadian faces, I guess. So they're like, yeah, no, you're not a part of us, you're not from here.
Yeah. And it's more the fact that like I feel like it's yeah, like asking where someone's from is like a normal question, but it's sometimes like maybe I think we all experience this where we said, "Oh, we're Canadians," but they go on again and they ask, "Where are you really like where are you
Yeah.
really from?" Just saying like,
Mhm.
"No, you're not Canadian." Like you don't like definitely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what's your ethnicity, you know? Like
Yeah, and I think
that
that's where it separates like since we've all heard it multiple times from people, um it just became a norm for us to just realize the actual meaning of their question, and instead of being like, oh yeah, I'm Canadian, we say the actual answer that they're looking for, which is, oh, I'm Filipino, if that's what you're asking.
yeah.
Because it's like it's just now it's embedded in me, like every time, like especially first days of class, they're like, okay, like where are you from, da 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 da. They're like in reality, oh, I'm Canadian, I was born here. But no, we just automatically go with our ethnicity.
Yeah. And another really good example would be you're so good for this whatever. Oh, you look so beautiful for whatever, or like your accent is so good. And
Mm-hmm.
for example, for me, like accent, like I am born here, I have no accent to be honest. Uh, but I did in high school. I had to force myself to have a Quebecois accent, so they would think like to fit in into what they see and to feel like they understand what I'm saying, even though I would still speak of normal French, like I just had no accent in my French, it's like normal, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And like I feel like we all also like heard the you're so pretty for I don't know like an Arab girl,
Yeah.
you're so pretty for
Mhm.
Asian girl, like it means it sounds very very like backhanded, like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
it's like taking our ethnicity as like they're ugly, but you kind of look like an exception because
Mm-hmm.
you're here and you're born here, like depending on what
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
I feel like for the accent thing, I could relate it more to, because I grew up around like Quebecois and people. So, clearly my French is more of a Quebecois accent.
Mm-hmm.
And then people, like, if I would speak to them, they're like, oh my God, like, your French is like so good. Like, you speak well. And like, yeah, like, what makes it
What
different
do you
between me
mean?
and you? We're both
Yeah.
born here, we're raised here, we went to French high school. Like really, what's the difference? And it also goes into like the when Maria said like, oh, we're pretty for like whatever ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what makes us different from being pretty to like
Yeah.
just that just means that there's a standard of beauty and we're not
Exactly.
in it, and it's like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
are you pretty for an Asian? That's such a good comment. It's good. Just take it as a compliment.
Yeah, and like I would also add to that, like, because for most of you guys, it was like from coming from somebody that's, I'm assuming, white, that
Right.
doesn't know your culture, or like, just assume things. But for me, it's like, I would have Filipinos that would come to me and be like, oh, like you're like, for some reason, there's two different types of Filipinos when it comes to like beauty standards. And now it's more like, oh, if you're more like paler or like whiter, you're more prettier as a Filipino. And it's like, that sucks because I have cousins that are dark skinned, but they are now wishing to have lighter skin like me. And it's weird because it's like, we're in the same culture, we have the same ethnicity. Why are we competing, or why is this such a standard that we all want?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really interesting the way like it affected us, which is also why it matters. It like it all like all those comments we receive build who we are as of today. And I think it is important to shed light on it because you have to humanize the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, who's affected by it? Like in from my perspective, it was always marginalized groups or physical minorities. So you see that they're different
Mm-hmm.
in some kind of ways. And to go on into microaggression and like some key ideas from it, I would start by the roots of it, which is racialization,
You got it.
racialization in school, and basically what does it mean is the way students are treated, understood, or basically judged based on their race rather
Mm-hmm.
for their individual, for who they actually are. So, for example, they're not gonna see me. They're gonna like label me as Arab and not see and treat me because I am Arab and not because I don't know because I'm a bad person or because I'm a good person.
Mm-hmm.
They don't base their judgment from my personality just because the way I look or for my origins. And some important key from the racialization of in schools is assumptions made about some abilities. I think a really good example that I think Angelina will also develop on is how is basically you take a group, a minority group, and you will link it to a certain stereotypes. So the example I had is like how Asians are mostly seen as being genius and always having good grades. And I think these are some kind of comments that a lot of people from this group would receive from the dominant culture, which is for here white people. Um, Also, like different discipline, student of color often get punished um, harshly, well, harsher than another one. So, for example, I had a project with not a project, like an exam with, I don't know, me, Maria, Arab, and Jean-Luc Blanc, Québécois du Saguenay. Um, we did both the same exam. He copied me, but he got caught, but then accused me, and I'm the one who got the majority of the consequences. Him because of my ethnicity. Another point is stereotyping. So it's similar to assumptions about abilities. It's like, for example, something I've seen a lot, I think, is like Latino students or Black students being called loud in class, or for example, like we've talked about accents, like, oh, you're for a Latino guy, your accent is actually so good, when it's someone who's born here and like lived his whole life here, which is probably why he has an accent because he's been living here. Also, it's more regarding the staff of the schooling environment, lowered expectations. For example, a counselor will, like, I haven't encountered that myself, but it does exist. It's like the counselor will tell a certain student from another race that, I don't know, because of their grades, they're not going to be able to get into a certain programs, rather than telling that to a white person or the predominant culture, basically. So that's pretty much it. And to go on with that, I actually learned that through the research we've done for this podcast. It's an article who explain complete versus incomplete racialization theory. So basically, what it is, a complete racialization is when a student is fully defined by their race or their cultural background. And it's basically taking this person and putting it put it and put it into a group like a stereotype, and they're always going to be considered as this stereotype and never like anything else, basically.
Yeah.
So like here, how I phrased it is like they're reduced to a stereotype and they're treated by these assumptions. So for example, something that I've encountered in my high school, it's a Black student will, like, a tall, relatively strong, will be related to an athletic person. Like, oh, he's tall, Black, he plays basketball. Like, when you don't really know, like, maybe he loves to read, like, books, like you never know. Or like we said before, another good example is like, oh, Asians are good in math, or Asians are genius, they know the answers for everything, which it's not true. Like, of course, intelligence is not related to your race.
Yeah.
And on the opposite, well, it's not the opposite, but like in the incomplete racialization part, it's more subtle, which is directly linked to microaggression. Sorry. it's when the student is not fully reduced to the race, but still get backhanded comments, such as like we've talked about an example like you're smart for a Latino kid, or you don't act Asian enough, you don't act Arab enough. Um, and they're basically an incomplete is like microaggression that implies to students that are considered as an exception of their ethical group. Like they're not
Mhm.
necessarily in the stereotype. They're like it's a bit like the comment we said, "Oh, you look so beautiful for an Arab girl. You're so good. Your accent is so good," which basically has nothing to do with race. So in short, it complete like the word complete is fully defining by race, and incomplete is, well, not fully defined by race. It's more backhanded comments.
Yeah, and like to go off that, another key idea that we had is normativity and normalization. So like normativity is basically things that people just consider what's the norm or like what's normal. So like perhaps the way you dress, the things you eat, or like how you look. There's like a specific standard that has been placed for some reason. Um, and like these comments, um, microaggression, has become such a norm that it's like we don't see it as a problem anymore, and that's the issue, when in reality it really is a problem because it affects us, like whether it's like mentally or like psychologically. It just affects the way we think and the way we perceive ourselves. Like an example is that we've me and Angelina, we've heard a lot of times like, oh, um like you should be good in math, or like, wow, you're so good in math because you're Asian. Like we hear that so much, it's become a norm, and like we don't see it as an issue, and we just like take it, or just like, yeah, true, like you're right, when in reality that's not true. Like
Mm.
just
Yeah,
because we're Asian doesn't mean that we should be smart or that we're getting good at math.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
because like there's nothing like that's differencing from me and that other person from being good in math or whatnot. Like we're both learning the same material, we're both in the same class. Like it just doesn't, yeah, doesn't
yeah,
work.
and I think also something interesting that regarding normativity is that yes, they make it normal, but at some point we also make it normal for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. Like when you keep receiving those kind of comments, maybe at first you're gonna laugh it off, but then after you're trying to understand, like, oh, maybe they mean harm, and then you get mad, and then they say sentence, oh, and they say sentences like, you're being too sensitive, oh, I'm just joking, no, 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 and like it gets to a point where you're asking yourself, am I the problem? Am I like the one
Mhm.
having some sort of anger issues? And like I need maybe to be less sensitive. And this is where you're like normalizing it for yourself, just trying to feel better and also to
Yeah.
fit into this group of so-called friends making those microaggressions.
Mhm.
Exactly. It's like because it's normalized, we start to like we don't realize it, like we unconsciously start to follow that norm and try to be normal,
Yeah, for sure.
when like what is normal? Nothing's normal. Like, you know?
Yeah. I think I could go back to Maria when she was talking about racialization in schools and how some people, uh, like, you said something about like being treated poorly and stuff like that. And in fact, with Corey, we did a little I guess um, activity on Afrocentric schooling, where I found it very interesting, and I read about how uh, that anti-blackness is an issue for African students, and they're targeted racially. Such example could be such as like being suspended from school, lack of support, like Maria said, like counselors not supporting of them, believing in them, neglect from teachers, maybe because oh he's a disruptive student, like he's not going to succeed in life, neglecting them, and so much more. And just these just are affecting them so much, and it's important to for people like from any ethnicity to know where they're from so they don't feel lost or confused. Like this one I think talker, Dr. Asante, he said like it's important for black people to know where they come from, like, and the history so you don't feel lost or confused. And that goes for all of us too. And normativity, because I would say, like, when I was normalizing things like that, I was kind of confused. I was like, why would they even think of that? Oh, whatever. Like, but it's just like we had to find like, our identity. I don't know, like, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's also the like to go into like hidden curriculum and like stuff like that. I think it goes to like the lack of representation also that we didn't see. Well, personally, I've never seen throughout my high school years any like Arabic representations or like any other ethnicity, honestly. Like it was only um like they were only talking about one specific group and never about the others. And it's like, oh, but to who should I relate to who should I find
Hmm.
my identity, and to who I have to build my personality around, or not around, but like like to who I have to take inspiration. Yeah.
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 Sorry. And yeah, so it makes it, it's really systemic. It's interesting. It makes me remember of an example, just talk about like the cultural day and cultural week. And I think I've never seen it. Like we did have a cultural day in my high school, but it was like very, very minimized. Like no one would promote it. It's only like if you walk past the actual attractions that you would see it.
Hmm.
And I think this is something also really in like input into the heading curriculum. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like, honestly, the culture day, I think we had it only once during our high school. To be fair, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but like I didn't even participate in it. Like throughout high school, I remember books we were reading, things we were learning. It was probably white authors, stuff
Yeah,
like that. Especially in French classes, we never read really much about
Mhm.
diversity. Maybe
always
in English class, yeah, English class we read like To Kill a Mockingbird. That was the
Mm.
closest thing to something being like, oh, like talking about racism. But even that, like Culture Day, I did not participate because I was like, I don't want to be the odd one out. Like, because also, like, I think we can all relate how we have like this, uh, we don't feel like we're part of a community or identity. Like, we're all born here, so we're Canadians, but then
Mhm.
we have our ethnical background, which is all of our backgrounds, and then like, where do we actually belong? Can we fit into both? And
yeah, it's
so,
about like balancing like both, well, basically both culture, you know.
Yeah. For Culture Day, like the difference between me and you guys is that since mine is mostly like Filipinos or like more diverse groups, people were actually, dressing up in their clothing of their culture, and like
mhm.
it was actually really cool and interesting. Um, but like even I didn't even participate in it. I mean, to be fair, we were wearing uniforms, in my high school, we had uniforms. And so most of us just took it as a day to wear our own clothes. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know, like would I have participated in it? Maybe, but at the same time, it's like since most of my classmates were Filipino, I was seeing it left and right anyways. So
Yeah, like I don't need to. Yeah.
exactly. But
That's
it's
really interesting, yeah, because we're both like we both didn't participate, but for such like different
different
reasons,
reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this makes it like like where we find patterns into this issue is like that it's obviously systemic. Like it's not a one case or one experience of one individual. It's like something that at some point we all see, especially us as like people from another cultural background. Obviously, we don't have the point of view of a white person who's lived the opposite, but we also see how it's like those comments are not made because they're like you're not born racist.
Mm-hmm,
It's
yeah.
something you learn either through like parents or like social media. And honestly, Aaron, social media, I think for my case, brought more like normalization and hate than like awareness, which is, I guess, until COVID, honestly.
Mhm.
And obviously that it's unconscious. It's never, well, for some case, of course, they mean harm. They're actually not being curious. They're just like straight up racist. But this would be considered as something else and not microaggressions. And of course, why it matters, well, obviously shed lights into the issue, and humanize it because there's so many myths around it. For example, it minimized the real impact. It reinforced this idea of like systemic, like being too sensitive, you cannot take a joke, and in the like overall idea, it general normalize it actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think some interesting myth that we've seen, and I think a lot of people don't really like see it, is how marginalized group also cannot commit microaggression or being racist, which is completely false. Personally, I've been told many times how because I don't speak Arabic, I'm not considered a real Algerian. I'm not considered a real
Mm-hmm.
Arab person. I'm whitewash. I'm, yeah, basically like I'm not, I shouldn't, like I should be ashamed. I should not be a part of the culture, which is also microaggressions. Um,
Yeah, for sure. I feel like also me too, I got told I can speak my language, but I can't read or write it, and people would just be like, "Oh, so you're so whitewashed." Obviously, like I knew it, you couldn't even write or speak.
yeah,
I
like
was just
you're fake.
so like, yeah, I was so like saying that like so normal, but I was like, I was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, like,
And like an extra thing is that like we're also born in Canada. Like
mhm,
that's an extra thing. It's like people that are from our country that comes here and like immigrate here, they're probably gonna see us as exactly whitewash, like because we were born here.
but yeah, I think Jessica, you had an example about like, um. Like especially you because you're a Filipino who went to like school where a lot of Filipinos. So I think maybe like did you any get like ever like any like microaggressions from like your people?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, the most common would be saying that I'm whitewashed, and I think that's where that's like it's a problem, obviously, because it is microaggression, but we don't see it as a problem since it's been told multiple times. Like I would just say it to like a friend of mine that's also Filipino, like, oh, we're whitewashed, uh, like we see it as like a bonding experience, even though it's like it's microaggression. It's something that shouldn't be said like in a good way or anything. But since it's so normalized, we just say it as it is.
I feel like it also goes into like the pattern on how Maria was talking about social media. Like social media, like it was where like whitewash was not a term
Mm,
before social media, I want to say.
Yeah.
It was really like when social media appeared, like, because if you were blatantly racist on the medias, you would get like flagged or
Yeah, banned.
reported. Yeah, and so like being whitewashed, technically there's nothing wrong, but then the meaning behind that word being like kind of microaggression to you, it's really like,
Yeah, it's like they took the racist comment because on social media, like the way it influence like you're not born racist, they took the comment on social media not to get banned, and they kind of like made it into a microaggression, like a backhanded comment basically.
Mhm.
And for most people, they take it as it is, and then they tell you this, and most of the time it's people from our friends group. So they like allow themselves to say that to us without thinking that it actually affects us,
Mhm.
which kind of goes back to the fact that it's systemic and it's way too normalized and unconscious too. But like there's also lights to it. There's solutions you can find. It's obviously way more complex than we think because it is systemic, and something as huge as that, you need to go to the roots of it, which would go back to
like
like
all back, it will go all back to the way to the hidden curriculums
uh,
about the books we were reading, we were taught on. Like it's just
Mhm.
such a big like change we'd have to do. But there's
yeah.
some small changes I think we could do more like I said, Afrocentric schooling. We could do something similar instead of always for us, I think we all learned like a very Eurocentric schooling and like
Mhm.
views. So that's maybe we could change that, getting
Yeah, it
more.
reminds me of the two-eyed seeing um
Mhm.
like reading we had with Corey. It's like taking indigenous knowledge and um European knowledge, and putting them together, so we learn it in a better way, if I can say that.
Mhm.
I think it's also teachers should obviously teach more about like racism and discrimination and everything that goes with it. Well, microaggressions, of course, and like in another way than the baking model, which is like you don't just like give out the like, oh, racism exists, point, and then move
Yeah.
to another subject.
Mm.
I think it's important that student like creates discussion also between them, because we're the same age, especially in high school. You learn others like perspectives, and I think it's important to do that to eventually go into a higher like a better situation basically.
Yeah, like what I would like to add for that is that like the reason why it's such a big issue is because it's something seen as so little. Like
Mhm.
it's not they would probably see it as like, oh, it's not a big issue, so why should we even shed light to it? When in reality it really is, because the comments are so like hard to distinguish if you don't.
A few moments later.
Okay, sorry, we had a problem. But to conclude our podcast for today, so basically, like, we presented all the solutions where I think it's very good and important for us. It's gonna help, make it. Obviously, we cannot fix racism. That's way too big of a topic. But I feel like all the solutions we proposed are good ideas, and we had a questions for you guys. So it's how many times did you laugh it off? It doesn't have to be you being you getting microaggressions. It could be you saying a microaggression and you're laughing about it. It just makes you think. It made me really think about like I actually thought the jokes were funny, but it was not
Mhm.
funny.
And like we also like we talk about our own experiences and everything, and we say it's wrong, but at this age we probably also us like countered it and laugh it off instead of like actually reflect and be like, no, this is wrong. And it's until now, like, and the whole point of the podcast today is for you guys to make sure it's understood and you're able to reflect on your own actions and to grow out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye,